I found a long, brownish-yellow hair on Marcus's shirt button. I searched among all the young, beautiful women around him, but found no trace of it. Then one day, as 50-year-old aunt diligently attended to my husband, I suddenly noticed that aunt, who was postmenopausal, had long, brownish-yellow dyed hair. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. While I was tidying Marcus's shirt, I found a long hair wrapped around a button. It was brownish-yellow, and for years, to ensure Leo's well-being during IVF treatments, I hadn't dyed my hair once. My husband was cheating on me. The thought hit me so hard I could barely stand. After Helen, who we'd hired, finished feeding Leo, she looked at me strangely. "Grace, what's wrong? You look terrible." With my husband cheating, how could I not look terrible? Looking at Aunt, who took such good care of me and was about my mother's age, I felt an urge to confide in an elder and seek help. After I'd told her everything, Aunt's expression flickered with a moment of panic. Then she looked at me with a strange gaze, gripped my hand, and earnestly advised me. "Grace, are you overthinking this? That hair doesn't mean he's seeing someone else. Think about it, Marcus manages such a big company all by himself, it's quite an achievement. He entertains and meets so many people, it's perfectly normal for a stray hair to get on him. Don't let such a small thing make you so suspicious and damage your relationship." After hearing Aunt's heartfelt words, I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill and turn our happy home into chaos. I was an only child from a bustling city, my parents having made some money in business. Marcus, on the other hand, came from a small town. My parents disagreed with me marrying him, but we overcame many obstacles to build our family. After we married, I struggled with infertility due to health issues, and it took several years of effort before Leo was born. Marcus's small company had also just started to gain traction. Maybe my life was too stable, making me overreact to minor issues. My gaze drifted to Aunt's brownish-yellow hair, streaked with silver. A subtle sense of triumph welled up inside me. "You really admire my husband?" Aunt's dark face faintly flushed. "Of course. How many young people can start a company from scratch like him nowadays? He's truly capable. You married a good man." I smiled, not bothering to mention that the startup capital for Marcus's company actually came from my family. I didn't confront Marcus about the hair, but a seed of doubt was planted in my mind. During his lunch break, I called him, asking in a half-coquettish, half-coercive tone. "Honey, I miss you. You haven't updated me on your schedule in ages. Have you forgotten your promise before we got married?" "Of course not," Marcus replied, his voice as gentle as ever, patiently coaxing me. "I practically live a two-point line existence every day, it's terribly dull. There's really nothing exciting to report to my dear wife." He paused, as if just remembering. "Actually, there was an employee dinner yesterday. I came home early, so I didn't report it." He chuckled, asking, "Did the smell of smoke and alcohol on me bother you? Next time, I'll shower at the company before coming home. Just don't complain then if I'm back late." "An employee dinner? Then it's fine." I hadn't been to Marcus's company in about a year, but I remembered he had a few female employees who seemed decent and reliable. I relaxed, joking. "Tell me, are you trying to use showering as an excuse to do something naughty? Your small company doesn't have private bathrooms, so I won't fall for that." What was clearly a light-hearted tease, however, struck a sensitive nerve with Marcus. His voice rose several octaves. "I knew it. You've always looked down on me, looked down on my company." "That's not what I meant." Before I could finish explaining, Marcus angrily hung up the phone. I shook my head in resignation, and when I turned around, I found Aunt standing behind me like a ghost, holding a mop, which gave me a fright. "Aunt, you walk so quietly." Aunt didn't reply, but stared intently at me, asking, "So, did Marcus cheat or not?" Her urgent demeanor made it seem as if her husband was cheating. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Aunt's nosiness. "No, he just had a normal dinner with his employees." Aunt sighed in relief after hearing this, murmuring, "I knew it." She slowly dragged the mop outwards, working very meticulously. As Helen, her only duty was to take good care of Leo and me. She wasn't required to do housework, yet she voluntarily took on many chores, even washing Marcus's and my underwear. There was nothing to fault in her work. I retracted my gaze, satisfied, contemplating giving her a raise. As for my upset husband, I decided to give him a surprise. I immediately arranged to go shopping with Sophia, visited every store in the mall, and carefully selected a few outfits. Perhaps it was because I'd undergone so many IVF treatments in the past few years to have a child that my body was worn out. But was different. He was in the prime of his life, full of energy. It was 4 in the afternoon when I returned home, laden with shopping bags. I quietly opened the door. The large living room was empty of Aunt and Leo. Hearing Helen's voice playfully talking to Leo from the nursery, I dropped my shopping bags and headed straight there. The nursery door was ajar, and the entrance faced the bed. The scene on the bed made my eyes burn. My seemingly honest and reliable aunt had unbuttoned her clothes and was personally breastfeeding Leo. As she fed him, she kept teaching Leo to say, "Sweetie, call me mama. I'm your mama, remember?" I was trembling with fury, my fingers clenched tightly, wanting nothing more than to rush over and tear Aunt apart. I was so utterly enraged that for a moment, I couldn't react. My feet felt rooted to the spot, stuck, and I could only glare at Aunt with eyes spitting fire. Finally, she sensed something was wrong. She looked up, saw my face, and nearly dropped Leo in fright. Trembling, she buttoned her clothes and cautiously scurried over to me, apologizing profusely. "I'm so sorry, Grace, it's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding." I kept a stony face, silent, waiting to see what excuses she would come up with. "Has ever told you that I actually had a child? He was just about the same age as your Leo, only 1 year old, and he could already call me mama." Aunt wiped away a tear, continuing in a choked voice, "But my alcoholic husband would get drunk and hit people, and he accidentally beat my Leo to death. After that, I couldn't have any more children." Aunt gestured with her hand. "He was so small when he died, I could just barely hold him. When I see Leo, I think of my son. I don't have the fortune to be a mother, so I just want Leo to call me mama once. Then I'd have no regrets, even in death." Watching Helen, her face streaked with tears and her body racked with sobs, I remained silent for a long time before sighing. "Don't let it happen again." "Thank you," Aunt said, visibly relieved. That evening, when Marcus came home from work, I couldn't keep things to myself and told him about Aunt's absurd behavior. "I mean, she's so strange. She's 50 and postmenopausal. What could she possibly be producing? What if she infects Leo with bacteria?" To my surprise, Marcus's reaction was unexpected. Instead of siding with me, he accused me of being harsh. "She showers every day, where would the bacteria come from? Just remind her not to do it again. She works very efficiently, you know, don't be so harsh on her." Harsh? I'd even given her 2 raises. I pouted indignantly. Thinking of my plan for tonight, I held back from arguing. I patiently went to the bathroom to shower, and when I came out, I deliberately put on the new clothes I'd be ought. Aunt, who was sweeping, stopped what she was doing and gave me an uncomfortable once-over, then mumbled something under her breath about me being seductive. Older people tend to be conservative, so I didn't fuss over such small matters. On the contrary, her jealous gaze satisfied my vanity. Aunt was old and declining, while I was in my prime, with a good figure. Inside the room, Marcus's eyes indeed lit up when he saw me dressed like that. Our eyes met, and with a silent understanding, we turned on the small bedside lamp. We both tried everything we could, but I still couldn't get into the mood. Marcus, losing interest, turned me over. A little while later, he started calling me sis again and again. Why sis? He came from a single-parent household, raised by his mother, and preferred older women, saying they gave him a sense of security. I was 3 years older than him. In the end, it was another hasty conclusion. Stroking his somewhat distant face, my heart was filled with guilt. He gently removed my hand, took a deep breath, and said, "It's all right, darling. I'll get you a cup of milk. Let's not fuss anymore, let's just go to sleep." With that, he got up, and a moment later, brought me a cup of milk. I didn't know where he bought the imported milk powder, but its sleep-inducing effect was first-rate. I quickly fell into a deep sleep. Perhaps because I had a lot on my mind, I, who never woke up at night, suddenly jolted awake. I instinctively reached out to my side but found nothing there. I was startled. In the middle of the night, where was my husband? Suspicious, I got out of bed. The lights in the living room and the restroom were off. Only a sliver of light peeked from under Aunt's door. Staring at that glimmer, Aunt's brownish-yellow dyed hair, mixed with gray, flashed unconsciously in my mind. It felt as if something was about to reveal itself. My heart pounded so fast it felt like it would leap out of my chest. Faintly, I heard Marcus's voice. "You." Unable to hold back any longer, I pushed the door open. There sat Aunt and Marcus on the bed, looking at me by the doorway with panic, especially Aunt, who hurriedly handed Leo to Marcus, even fumbling a button on her clothes. At this moment, emotions surging like lava were hidden beneath my calm facade. I gritted my teeth and asked, "What are you two doing?" "Feeding Leo," Marcus stammered, then quickly recovered. Ignoring him, I asked Aunt suspiciously, didn't you promise me you wouldn't breastfeed Leo anymore? I told her to do it, Marcus said, getting up and standing in front of Aunt, who was bowing her head, afraid to speak. He frowned as he looked at me. You refuse to breastfeed Leo to maintain your figure. Can't I find someone else to do it? It's such a blessing for Leo to have breast milk. You can't deprive him of that right just because he's young. I sneered, what a load of nonsense. Experts say babies who drink breast milk are smarter. I was still drinking my mom's milk when I was 5. Look how well I turned out, Marcus said, sighing as he looked at my unpleasant expression, his tone softening. All right, Grace. It's normal for couples to have disagreements when raising a child. Let's agree to disagree. No, wait. From now on, I'll listen to you and never pretend to comply while doing otherwise again, okay? I felt a pang of pity. Marcus grew up in a single-parent household, so it was perhaps inevitable that his perspectives were a little skewed. Aunt also apologized profusely, tears streaming down her face. Her already plain face looked even worse. Besides being bothered by Aunt personally breastfeeding Leo, I was also angry that Marcus didn't try to avoid suspicion in his interactions with her. But you shouldn't be watching her breastfeed. What exactly is your relationship? Marcus's eyes widened. He glanced at Aunt, who was still looking down, then coaxed me back to our room. Taking my hand, he looked sincerely into my eyes, then let out a chuck. Clee. I thought it was something serious. Turns out my dear wife is just jealous. There's absolutely no need. With a vibrant beauty like you by my side, how could I possibly be interested in a shriveled, wrinkled, sagging aunt? I kept a poker face, saying nothing. Although I looked good, I couldn't bring him happiness. Marcus kissed my hand, smiling openly. Even if I were to cheat, which I wouldn't, I certainly wouldn't be interested in someone like Aunt. Rest assured, there's nothing going on between us. He spoke so convincingly that I was almost persuaded. The next morning, I complained about the whole thing to Sophia. My easygoing Sophia burst out laughing. Honestly, your aunt sounds pretty good, unlike my nanny who's always slacking off, apart from her unusual way of feeding Leo, that is. And you, to suspect Aunt, who could be Marcus's mother. I think you're having a bit of a stress reaction. Why don't you try to figure out whose hair that is? Otherwise, you'll never truly feel at ease, will you? She had a point. Marcus said he was at an employee dinner that day, so I decided to act immediately and went to his company. This company also had my shares, though I hadn't visited in a long time. Marcus greeted me with surprise. Why are you here? Can't I be? Of course not, Marcus denied instantly, then grandly introduced me to his employees. This is your boss's wife. Everyone stood up to greet me. My gaze swept over each female employee, and I frowned. How could none of them have brownish yellow hair? Whose hair was it on Marcus's shirt button? After I arrived, Marcus stuck to my side, never leaving. He had me sit in his office, and whenever I stood up, he'd quickly follow, looking at me eagerly. Wife, what do you need? Your husband is here to help. I gave him a half smile. I'm going to the restroom. Are you going to move the toilet over for me? He let out a dry chuckle. You really know how to joke. I'll wait for you outside the door then. I hooked my lips into a smile and turned, glancing at Marcus, who was trailing me to the restroom door. My expression then grew cold. He seemed very afraid of me interacting with his employees alone. What else could it be but a guilty conscience? But he didn't know that the company's accountant was someone my parents had arranged to place there. With one phone call, the accountant would tell me everything. Ms. Grace, the company didn't have any team-building events that day. Marcus seemed normal, coming and going from work as usual, rarely working overtime, and showing no intimate behavior with female employees. The hair? Their hair color hasn't changed, it's just as you see it. My fingers clenched tightly around my phone, my stomach churning. My mind raced. No dinner, Marcus lied to me. If he wasn't cheating, why would he lie? What couldn't he tell me? I'd been so understanding of him. At this moment, I was almost certain Marcus had another woman. I took deep breaths, barely managing to steady myself, and instructed the accountant, check his accounts for any large expenditures and where the money went. All right, Ms. Grace, give me a moment. Having said that, I patted my face, composed my expression, and walked out of the restroom. Marcus, waiting outside, let his gaze sweep over my face, then said with a smile, shall we leave work early today and go home? I simply hummed in response. After spending some time in the office, the accountant sent me a string of bills via text message. Ms. Grace, I've checked. There are no large expenditures, everything is within normal spending. Even so, I didn't believe Marcus was entirely innocent. Could a young, strong man truly suppress such urges? I furiously wiped my face. I shouldn't be willing to be a blind fool, closing my eyes and heart, just to maintain the family. When I wanted to protect the family, I could invent countless reasons to deceive myself. But once I truly woke up, I could be terrifyingly rational and ruthless. As quitting time approached, we drove home together. Along the way, I was distracted, only occasionally exchanging a few words with Marcus. Aunt, who had been playing with Leo, heard the door open, immediately put him down, and walked over. She naturally took Marcus's coat, then knelt to help him put on his slippers, showing more care and consideration than I, his wife. As I looked at her brownish-yellow hair, my heart sank further. After doing all that, Aunt finally noticed me, then produced another pair of slippers and handed them to me. I glared sharply at Aunt. Usually, I didn't come home with Marcus, but this time I realized something was off. I hired Aunt specifically to take care of Leo and me. Yet, Aunt's eyes noticed Marcus first. Aunt, I hired you to take care of me. Instead of hanging up my clothes, you're attending to my husband. Isn't that putting the cart before the horse? Aunt lowered her head, looking wronged. I just saw how hard Marcus works at the company. All right, it's a small matter, don't be so aggressive. Marcus frowned and looked over, once again defending Aunt and criticizing me. This action was nothing short of adding fuel to the fire. I married Marcus, he and I are family, yet he repeatedly defends someone else. Who exactly is his wife? The tight string in my mind suddenly snapped these past few days. I didn't care anymore, and impulsively spoke first. Aunt, I've tolerated you for long enough. I can no longer afford a nanny who lacks boundaries. I'll pay your wages now, and you need to pack your things and leave my house immediately. Aunt froze, tears welling up instantly, and she kept apologizing and pleading. Marcus watched from the side, not daring to intervene with my raging anger. Eventually, Aunt even knelt, begging me. Her attempt at emotional manipulation didn't work on me, and she finally left reluctantly. Before dragging her numerous bags out, she gave me a cold smile. Don't get cocky. You can't even satisfy why. Our own man, you'll be abandoned sooner or later. I froze. How do you know? Aunt smiled enigmatically. I won't tell you. Her words kept me tossing and turning all night. I grew increasingly suspicious of her relationship with Marcus. After rolling around in bed for a while, I finally realized something was missing. I nudged Marcus, who was sleeping next to me. You forgot to make my milk tonight. Marcus groggily got up, grumbling about the hassle, but still made it and brought it over. After drinking it, I lay down feeling at ease. The milk, which usually had a miraculous hypnotic effect, had no impact on me tonight. I only managed to fall asleep close to dawn. After waking up, I quickly found a new nanny, Chloe. She was very young and very beautiful. Marcus looked at young Chloe with surprise, then at me, his face filled with disbelief. Wife, is she really old enough to have had a child? Can she take good care of you and Leo? Chloe smiled calmly. I had my child early. Don't let my age fool you, I've been in this line of work for years. I shot Marcus a glance. You're allowed to hire someone like Aunt, but I can't hire someone I like and who I can talk to. Marcus laughed heartily. Of course not. I'd love for you to hire someone attractive and pleasing to the eye. I was just afraid you'd get jealous. Without even a single night's gap, the nursery welcomed its new occupant. Of course, I wasn't naive enough to let a nanny like Chloe live in our home. I hired her mainly to test Marcus. However, for half a month straight, Marcus showed no abnormal behavior, not the slightest hint of flirtation. How could that be? Had discovered something and was afraid to make a move? I even suspected that Chloe had been bribed and seduced by Marcus. I firmly believed that Marcus was definitely up to something. Besides the hair and Aunt's strange remarks, there was also the milk. After forgot to make me milk that day, he never forgot again. As soon as I drank that stuff, I fall asleep instantly. Looking at the reviews for that brand of milk on Amazon, there was no noticeable sleep-inducing effect. I carefully saved the milk Marcus had prepared and had it tested at the hospital. It indeed contained sleeping pill ingredients. One crucial piece of evidence was still missing. A few days later, while Chloe was doing a deep clean, she pulled a tissue with dried stains from the bed crevice in the nursery and brought it to me like a treasured find. Ms. Grace, do you think this might be Marcus's? I took it without a word. That same evening, I managed to collect some of Marcus's semen and send it for testing. Sure enough, it was his. I calmly waited for Marcus to come home from work. Just as calmly, I tossed the wadded tissue at him. He looked at me with a bewildered expression. What's this? It fell out of the nursery. Marcus, what do you have to say for yourself? Back then, I married him despite my family's opposition, giving him $1 million dowry to start his company. Our house and car were both bought outright by me. And a man like that still cheated. I must have been completely blind. Marcus looked at me with an innocent expression. What does that have to do with me? Maybe Helen or Chloe brought a man into the nursery. You should ask them, wife. I had to admit, his psychological resilience was incredibly strong. He could still put on a brave front at a time like this. Take a look, I said, throwing the test results at his face. After reading it, he gave a dry chuckle. All right, I admit, I did relieve myself in the nursery, but it wasn't with anyone. If you don't believe me, ask Chloe and Aunt. Chloe looked at me with pleading eyes and shook her head. I sneered inwardly again and again. While I might be a bit of a romantic, I wasn't brain dead. Just then, Leo burst into tears from the bedroom. Marcus quickly rushed over, gently cradling and coaxing Leo, not forgetting to cast a pleading glance at me. Wife, I know it wasn't easy for you to have Leo. Can you please stop being so suspicious? Our son is still young, we need to give him a good environment to grow up in. He was reminding me that we had a child, and I needed to consider Leo, implying that even if he truly cheated, I should endure it. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded in response to his hopeful gaze. He let out a profound sigh of relief. Money was my backup. Even if Leo lost Marcus as his biological father, his material conditions wouldn't be affected in the slightest. However, Marcus did remind me, I could try to seek confirmation from Aunt again. The call was answered quickly. Without much persuasion, Aunt, eager to see me suffer, revealed the truth with great satisfaction. TSK. You ask how I knew you couldn't satisfy your husband? Of course, it's because your husband always liked to drug you in the middle of the night and then sneak into my bed. Didn't you expect that? He just prefers older women like me. He said you're as boring as a block of wood and don't interest him at all. Your husband hasn't delivered his goods to you many times, has he? Because he's been delivering them to me. I'm postmenopausal, so we don't even need to wear a condom. He said he loves it most with me. I listened very patiently, even having the presence of mind to ask, why are you willing to tell me now? Oh, he tried to offer me $500 to keep my mouth shut. Pfft, am I only worth 500? And here I was, genuinely considering him my man. I've seen both of you for what you are now. Bad news. I'm going to make sure your home is turned upside down. After hearing everything, I saved the recording. To discover that the person I had shared my bed with for years had such morals, I covered my mouth and dry heaved. After a long time to compose myself, I gritted my teeth and called my parents to ask for a favor. Marcus dared to sicken me. I absolutely couldn't let him off easily. He wouldn't get a single penny of my family's assets. My parents remained silent for a long time after hearing about Marcus, then let out a long sigh and spoke. We told you long ago not to marry a man from humble beginnings who climbs the social ladder. How much better it would have been to marry someone from a similar background. But it's done now. How do you want us to help you? So, I told them my plan. I thanked heaven for being born into a good family, surrounded by readily available resources. Within 2 days, Marcus shed his usual low-key demeanor, and designer brands started appearing on him one after another. A designer belt, a luxury leather wallet, an expensive watch. He became visibly more arrogant and full of himself. This was the money, giving him his newfound confidence. Although he had his own small company, its actual profitability was only mediocre. He might have looked impressive, but he didn't actually have much money. Now, though, he was like a nouveau riche lottery winner. When he came home late again, smelling of a woman's perfume, I pretended not to notice the pungent scent. Feigning confusion, I asked, honey, where did you get the money to buy so many luxury items? Partners gave them to me. Women shouldn't meddle in men's business. Marcus shoved me, extremely impatient. I sneered inwardly. The only good thing about his lack of discernment was that he couldn't tell real luxury goods from fakes. In the past, he wouldn't even dare to push me, let alone display his patriarchal attitude. He was getting ahead of himself, truly arrogant. Then let him soar even higher. The higher he flies, the harder he'll fall. Another half-month passed. The informant in the company's finance department told me that Marcus's visits to the company were becoming less frequent. He hadn't even shown up once in the last 3 days. How pathetic. It hadn't been long, and he already couldn't resist the allure of easy money. I clicked my tongue, then told the maid to add the final spark. A few days later, Marcus, who hadn't been home for days, suddenly returned. He had thick dark circles under his eyes, yet his gaze was bright as he looked at me, excitedly grabbing my hand and saying, Grace, do you Do you have any money? Lend me some, I'll make us rich. I frowned. You haven't been home or to work. What exactly have you been doing? You haven't done anything illegal, have you? Marcus stammered. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became. I pulled out my phone, ready to call the police and turn in a family member for a just cause. I'm reporting you. No, 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 it's not illegal. I have a way to make money very quickly, and it doubles. Just lend me the money, and I promise you won't regret it. I sneered, what falls from the sky is a trap, not a pie. Anyway, you clearly don't care about me and Leo anymore, so let's just get a divorce. The house and car are mine, they have nothing to do with you. As for the company, I won't bother with it, do whatever you want with it. Marcus hesitated for only a moment. Then, as if thinking of something pleasant, a smug smile spread across his face. Fine, divorce then. I'm sick of a woman like you, so dull and harsh. You can't even compare to Eleanor's little finger. Of course, I couldn't compare. Eleanor was a persona I had meticulously crafted, older, postmenopausal, wealthy, generous, and still charming. Most importantly, she could guide Marcus in investments to make money. TSK, TSK. Thanks to my parents for their network of connections. During the divorce proceedings, Marcus sold his small company for cash. After the divorce was finalized, he took out more loans to continue cashing in. A month later, Eleanor, who had been so generous and led Marcus to make money, disappeared, taking all the money from Marcus's company sale and his loans with her. Eleanor's name was fake, the luxury goods were knockoffs, her phone number was disconnected, and the supposed luxury apartment was rented and had now been aimed by its owner. Marcus called the police, but by then, Eleanor was already living lavishly overseas. The money was gone, beyond recovery. When came to me for help, I wasn't surprised at all. I deliberately arranged to meet him in a crowded square and, smiling, played the recording of my call with Aunt. Marcus's face turned ashen. I looked at him with pity. Oh, don't you understand even now? How could things be so coincidental? Didn't you wonder why Eleanor targeted you specifically, instead of someone else? What do you mean? Marcus's lips trembled violently as he stared intently at me. I smiled. Exactly what you're thinking. Marcus, don't underestimate women. I'm not someone to be trifled with. I'll ***king kill you. Marcus's eyes turned bloodshot, and he suddenly jumped up and hit me. I only took one punch before the crowd of righteous people nearby quickly restrained Marcus. I covered my face, laughing gleefully. You're finished. I'm going to press charges. With evidence of the drugging and his assault in broad daylight, Marcus successfully landed himself in jail. Unfortunately, the sentence was too short, and I wasn't satisfied. So, I accidentally uploaded the recording of my call with Aunt online. Netizens dug deeper and deeper, exposing Aunt as the 50-year-old aged other woman, and Marcus's scandalous affair with an older woman. Because it was so sensational and unbelievable, it spread incredibly wide. Almost everyone in the country knew about the two of them. Aunt was fired again. No one dared to hire her as a nanny. As for Marcus, as soon as he got out, he'd be burdened with high-interest debt. And with his ruined reputation and criminal record, what legitimate company would dare to hire him? As for me, I used the money I'd extracted from him to open a flower shop in a seaside city, living a delightful life every day, cuddling with my son, Leo. Thank you for watching today's story. If you liked this video, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your views, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.